It's Free Agency Friday on Locked On Coyotes. We are going to talk about 3 NHL free agents the Arizona Coyotes should chase ahead of the upcoming season. That's all on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes. I'm your host, Robin Leonio. That's Matthew Jacobson right beside me. I want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube and the SiriusXM radio app. We got a great show for you guys. Today's episode, it is Free Agency Friday. We're going to take a look at just a few players the Arizona Coyotes can chase after this upcoming off season. Matthew, let's get right into it.
Mm-hmm. My first pick, because this is interesting. I was watching a video earlier today that actually mentioned this player, and that's 32-year-old defenseman Jake Gardiner, who played for the Carolina Hurricanes. Big kid, 6'2", 203 pounds. Obviously not a kid anymore. He's just 32 years old. Former first-round draft pick, but looking at it, he hasn't played in a couple of years due to injury, and a guy like that definitely is probably, if he can play, I would say I'm not going to pretend to know the extent of his injuries, but if he is trying to make a comeback at the NHL level, it would make a lot of sense for a lot of other teams that are trying to compete right now to be a little weary of whether or not to sign him. And since the Arizona Coyotes love bringing in veterans, they love bringing in guys they can try to, reclamation projects, just see worst case scenario, if you sign him to a 1-year contract, it doesn't work out, you can just let him walk in free agency. But best case scenario, that can turn into some free draft capital at the trade deadline, as well as a good veteran presence in the locker room. So that's my basic mindset behind this, but I want to hear your thoughts on this pick.
Yeah, I feel like Jake Gardiner is a really good person to go after because of what you said, and the idea that someone can rebound off of injury or, for in the past, it's been the Coyotes picking up players who just haven't been playing well on their former teams. They get picked up by the Coyotes and they get a chance. They're given an opportunity to rebound and really find themselves. The Arizona Coyotes is the perfect team to do that. So I feel like, it's a good target for the Coyotes to go after, but also I do think it'd be a smart move to sign of the Coyotes if you're Gardiner, because you see the opportunity. You've seen what signing that the Coyotes have done for a player like, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's Shane Gostisbehere. What his rebound that he did after he got traded away for nothing from Philadelphia over to Arizona, and he has a massive rebound. And I think Gardiner can be the next one.
Yeah, and I was looking over his stats, and while he's not quite the goal scorer that Gostisbehere is, his best season was a 10-goal season in 2013-2014. Looking at this list, he very consistently is around 20 assists per season, minus in 2017-18 where he had 47, and the season prior, 2016-2017, where he had 34 assists. He's someone that definitely, looking at those numbers, facilitates the puck better. I'm also trying to look at some of these special teams numbers where he's getting power play points, averaging somewhere around 10 power play points per season. And again, he's coming off of injury, but if you can get some of that back, if he bounces back, if he's good to go this season, if he's not, obviously it doesn't happen. But if he is good to go this season, and you can add a guy that can get you, let's say 5 goals, I'm not going to expect too much out of him, but can get you around 25, maybe 30 assists, that really helps out your blue line. That helps facilitating on the power play. It makes it to where you don't need to rush one of the kids. You don't need to force the young defenseman on the blue line. And I know that they've put up a couple too many roadblocks to some degree. with veterans on the blue line as of the last couple of years, but it's kind of by necessity. There aren't very many good defensive prospects in the system. They definitely need to restock the cupboards there. They've been doing good offensively and okay with goaltending. They got a couple kids that like Anson Thornton there, was essentially a walk-on. They didn't have to waste a draft pick on him, but someone like this, I think, probably fits that mold pretty well, like a 1-year contract. Maybe he'd want the extra year, but definitely we'll have to have a conversation at some point about whether or not we agree with the notion that the current arena situation might make some free agents shy away. But for guys like this that might just be looking for a 1-year contract, prove that they're still NHL players, I think this is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the very reason why, I don't think, the Coyotes will unfortunately don't have a chance of going up against and spending willy-nilly on any top free agents, even like mid high mid-level free agents. And I'm not saying Gardner's not there and up there in any way. I'm just saying that because of what his history and everything like that it provides that opportunity, and that he'd be more willing to take that kind of chance to play for the Coyotes when they are, as you said, in the arena situation as they are right now. Again, I'll reiterate what you just said too. Defense, I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like the Coyotes need a strong, someone who could potentially be a solid defenseman. We really don't know what he can be, but if the potential's there, I'm for it. Especially because, as you just said, the defense right now is just so it's just not there. I don't think it's strong enough. I mean, yes, I love Juuso Välimäki and what he did last season. JJ Moser had a fantastic season, but who else besides that, right?
You had some surprising pairings, but they had short shelf lives. What was it? It was Nemeth and Brown was a really good pairing for a while. But it's also good in the context of compared to the expectations. I think it was Nemeth and Brown. There was a couple of different pairings that were just kind of weird that you got some results out of, but I think that Gardner's probably just better than a couple of the defensemen on the roster. I know plus minus is a team stat, and a lot of people hate this stat, but to me, you're part of the team out there, and it also is a good indicator of whether or not your offense is decent versus limiting some of those shot opportunities. It's very feast or famine, where it's like either you're negative 23 or positive 24. Looking at overall his career, he's probably averaging right around like a negative 12 to a positive, 8 or 9, to where it's like he definitely is more of an offensive defenseman than a pure defensive defenseman. But it seems like any other numbers I've seen and anything else I've heard about him is not bad defensively, per se. But there's definitely going to be a lot of the reclamation aspect when it comes to trying to bring him in. Then again, it also has to do with the injury. It's not like trying to pick on the guy or anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a risk that I would consider it potentially a calculated risk for the Arizona Coyotes. That they see the potential that's there, but they very well know they could potentially picking up a guy who is potentially damaged goods.
Yeah, and look, 1 year, 1.5, or even if you want to give him 1 year, $2 million because he's a veteran, you can afford to do that if you wanted to. It also helps you stay around the salary cap floor you'd like to be. Not really a whole lot of risk to it, but he'd probably get a little bit less than that anyway. But speaking of not a whole lot of risk, we got a good spot, first sponsor spot. So there you go, Robin. Take it away.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna get to that sponsor spot. And I want to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Are you tired of sacrificing comfort for style when it comes to your activewear? Introducing Birddogs, the game changer in athletic shorts. Picture this: premium shorts designed for maximum performance combined with unparalleled comfort. Birddogs are here to revolutionize your workout routine with the unique built-in liner. These shorts offer the ultimate support and flexibility, ensuring you stay comfortable even during the most intense workouts. And here's the best part: Birddogs are more than just workout gear. They're versatile enough to take you from the gym to the street without skipping a beat. Designed with pockets that actually work, Birddogs give you ample space to store your essentials while you're on the move. Birddogs are made of premium, breathable fabric that keeps you cool and dry throughout your activities, perfect for the trails, the gym, simply just lounging around. Birddogs are the shorts you've been searching for. Order your pair of Birddogs today and join the thousands of satisfied customers who have made the switch. Visit birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL and enter the promo code LockedOnNHL and get a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Birddogs, where style meets comfort, performance meets perfection. Get yours now and unleash your true potential. So let's go ahead and move on. We went pretty extensively with with that potential calculated risk for Jake Gardner, but now let's go ahead and go to a different position group on this one, and let's kind of go with the idea. The Coyotes chase after a goaltender, and the goaltender we have in mind, Alex Nedeljkovic.
Yep, it's and I know Bill Armstrong said that Vejmelka is part of the core. Personally, I still stand by this. I said before on my own personal channel. I just think he's too old to be part of the core. And goaltending, as we saw with Colorado, which is also a quote that I've essentially stole from the hockey guy, you show and you can get that last. But should they decide to move on from Vejmelka, Connor Ingram is not guaranteed to come back. He's an RFA, so they do have a little bit of a retainment on him. As well as Ivan Prosvetov is probably going to need that opportunity to take a step up next season and take a little more responsibility at the NHL level. That being said, you also don't want to be in a position to where you have to force him to do that, and then you're kind of in no man's land. And sure, you technically could try to get like Aiden Hill back. But one goalie I like is Alex Nedeljkovic right here. 27 years old, so I do believe he's the exact same age as Karel Vejmelka. He's coming off a rough year. It is a down year. So with Detroit, 15 games, he had a 5.72 record, 3.53 goals against, and an 8.95 save percentage, down from a 9.1 the season prior. And goals against went up from a 3.31. And then with Carolina the year before, phenomenal in 23 games, 15 wins, 190 goals against, 9.32 save percentage. This kid is good. Well, he's literally the same age as me, but he's a good player. I'm not sure if he just didn't work in Detroit. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a big Detroit fan and watch all their games, but I'm not sure if it just he didn't work there, or the defensive scheme, or he just had bad games when he played, or if it was a step back for him and maybe Carolina was ahead of the game on something. But all signs kind of point towards this goalie's still probably a good goaltender that had a bad year. If he comes to the Desert on a 1-year contract, can the Coyotes work their magic yet again? And with how good they've been with waiver claims and free agent grabs for goaltenders, I think this makes a lot of sense, especially when his value is probably lower than he would like it to be after this most recent season. What do you got to lose coming to Arizona for one season while they're still trying to go on that uptick? They're trying to get better and trying to show that you are still an NHL level goaltender, because I still think he is. I just think last year was a bad year.
Absolutely, and I'm looking too at I look at his stats and I think, okay, maybe not like at this moment starter, but you want to be able to find someone who can complement Vejmelka as much as possible, so you don't have to put so much of a workload on Vejmelka. Mm-hmm. That way you can work together. It's tandem goaltending, I think, is become a lot more prevalent to see a 1A and a 1B have them work as super well together. I really feel like given that right opportunity, I feel like Nedeljkovic can actually do that. And and nothing against Connor Ingram. I think he did fine. Same as but I feel like Nedeljkovic could really, I think, step it up a little bit, help step it up. I mean, like maybe he was able to pick up a couple things while he was with back in the AHL when he had to get sent down to Grand Rapids, but we'll see.
Yeah, and also like we'll have to do a topic on it eventually. We still have to figure out what the goaltending is going to look like next season. Ingram probably signs, but if you get a decent offer for his rights, you might as well take advantage of that. But if you can bring in Nedeljkovic to kind of help solidify, you can afford to lose either Ingram or Vejmelka. Just one. You can't afford to lose both of them. Oh. But if you bring in Nettie, you can afford to lose one of those two. And let's just say that despite Vejmelka has played very well. it's also kind of spotty up and down here and there. The defense is also a little bit spotty in front of him, but overall, he's played well. If another team is interested, you can get something for him. You can essentially take the money that he's making for the next couple of seasons and split that up amongst Ingram and Nedeljkovic on shorter deals, giving you more flexibility not only with the cap but also the goaltending position, and also making it easier to trade later. Even if you give them both like $2 million for one season, just give them. Obviously, Ingram would get a raise, and then Nettie, because he's a decent goaltender, you're literally spending barely more than you're spending now on one goalie for both of them, and then you still have two guys that isn't going to force Prosvetov to do anything. But let's just say it doesn't work with Nettie. Prosvetov could probably come in above him, and then you just send Nedeljkovic down for the one season, and it is what it is. And I don't see a whole lot of risk to it, and I'm like, kind of why not? And also, I'd probably have to get a Nedeljkovic jersey, and the amount of weird, long, or hard to spell last names we have in the mullet creases between Vejmelka, between TJ Septemfelter, and then potentially between Alex Nedeljkovic. It feels like we're not allowed to have goalies with short names like Hill or Joseph or something.
Or in the how I would think in joking around for a lot of people, in the words of Chance the Rapper from Saturday Night Live, that's a nope.
So I definitely think that they should look at goaltending. From what I understand, Anson Thornton should be old enough for AHL next year. He wouldn't make the NHL team, I don't think.
No.
But you can start to develop him as a prospect. Prosvetov, you want to get more NHL games, but you don't want to be stuck with. If Prosvetov is not what you wanted to be, you do not want to be stuck with a young goaltender.
You don't want to throw him to the fire. You do not want to throw him to the fire in the on some of these really tough games. That will only harm his development.
And even then, it also harms the team. Because, like, let's just say Prosvetov proves this season he's not the goalie, which would make me depressed. I love Ivan Prosvetov. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that he shows this year he's not it. Well, do you want to be forced to have that be your backup and then hope another waiver claim happens or try to force a trade or something? Like, it puts you in a bad position. So I think bringing in a backup caliber goaltender, figuring out what you're doing with either Ingram or Vejmelka, whichever one you decide to move on from, or even just signing Ingram and that's your backup option, figuring that out to put Ivan Prosvetov in the spot of the third goaltender, that if an injury happens, he can come up. Underperformance happens, he can come up. There's not a whole lot of pressure, so he'd be putting pressure on himself to outplay those goaltenders to earn that spot. Probably puts the Coyotes in the best possible position with their goaltending and also his development.
Yeah, it really is a, you know, it really is I think in all a development decision. I really believe that whatever decision you make in terms of goaltending, you know, bringing in Alex Nedeljkovic, whatever you do with Connor Ingram and Karel Vejmelka, I think it all is to, you know, to set the stage for Prosvetov. I'm still a believer at this moment that he should be the next guy, but we're still in waiting for that because he's still developing. And I just said earlier, goaltenders take a long time to develop. I don't know if, you know, in year 3 of a rebuild is, you know, the perfect time to just throw him out to, you know, a game against the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Florida Panthers and be like, all right, you got this.
Yeah, and it's with Prosvetov, like, you don't want to rush him, but year 3, also probably a pretty good moment to have him start to take a little more responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
But also, he's a couple years younger than Vejmelka, and I still stand by those couple years add up. So goaltending is a weird position. You can be elite until you're 38. You could burn out at 29. Like, goaltending is one of the weirdest positions, and I don't trust it. That's why I'm so, like, critical on the goaltending position, not, like, because I don't like Vejmelka or anything. So it's like, if you can get even a couple years younger at that spot, that helps with the timeline even more because it helps that timeline to line up better with where the Coyotes are going to be and where they want to be. So I would like it to be Ingram, Nettie, and Prosvetov, and then you move on from Vejmelka, or Pamelka gets traded at the deadline this year. In the second half of next season, it's going to be Ingram and Prosotov, with Prosotov getting a little heavier of the load to be like, all right, let's see what you really got with another year of development. Which I think he still needs he would still need to have a contract extension this offseason in order to do that. I think he's an RFA, or he has one more year. I have to double check that. I need to fact check more things on this show, but I will do it. Gosh darn it. But as long as you get that figured out, I still believe in the kid. He had a 950 save percentage in the first 3 games he played this season, showing that he's ready to take a step. Then he took a bit of a step back. There were some rough games. And whether it's on him, the defense, combination of both, which is probably what it was, he now knows even more so what he has to adjust to because he played the most games he ever played at the NHL level. And I think that's going to be valuable for him this offseason.
There's also the B side to the development question. I mean, you mentioned Anson Thornton probably making his way to the Tucson Roadrunners next season. But you also want to make sure the other players that are playing with the Tucson Roadrunners are given the opportunity to develop. And I do believe that, if you don't have strong goaltending in there too, they don't get the opportunity either. Mm-hmm. So there's a B side to that too. What we want to see Josh Doan and Michael Carcone together just freaking tear
I want to see Carcone at the NHL next year.
I want to see Carcone at the NHL.
And I feel like he'll leave if we don't give him an NHL contract. I know Bunting played at the NHL level and played better than Carcone did at the NHL level. Out of the two, so Carcone might be a little closer to an AHL level guy, but I still think he should be an NHL player. NHL level shot. The guy is good. He should be on the team next year, not in Tucson.
Oh yeah, no. There's a chance he can. I think at the very. I believe that now his floor is a quadruple A player. He's a really good AHL player. But still haven't seen enough at the NHL level. But I really want to see it.
I bet he'd be pretty good at the NHL level. Now, if you want to bet, let's do some transitions for the second ad break of this show. So we've got FanDuel Sportsbook. I actually got some experience with this one. So, make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs. Or NHL, but NBA playoffs. Right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet on the up to $1,000. My God, that's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. And I've actually used this app a decent amount. I bet on Mikal Bridges to be Defensive Player of the Year back in 2022. I think I put like $5 on that. I was constantly betting on it lets you for football pick what's going to be the next play or the result of the drive. For the NBA, there's something kind of similar where the player's going to score the next basket, or the player that scores the most baskets or most points or most assists, if he's going to get a double-double, triple-double, whatever. So it's actually a pretty solid app, and I had some fun with it. I really did. There's no better place There's no better place. Bet all playoff action in America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Also NHL.
So let's go ahead and finish things off. Once again, I want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available everywhere. I highly encourage, once you're done listening to this show, to go ahead and tune into our Grow the Game series. It's going to be releasing later today from when this episode's being released. If you're listening to this episode later in the day and you have not gotten to that, we highly encourage you to get to that, because we talked with the president and founder of Arizona Warrior Hockey Charities, talked about hockey in Arizona among the veteran community. So you'll definitely want to tune in to that episode. But let's finish things off on here, Matthew, as we talk about free agents the Coyotes can go after. The last one, and once you brought up Brendan Lemieux's size, I instantly thought, Bill, you're gonna do it?
Because that is perfectly. As a fourth liner, 6'1", 215, 27 years old. So obviously, he's not quite a kid, not quite a vet, kind of in the middle. And also, I think he does have the most ears bitten in the NHL, or at least he's competing with Marchand. But one reason I really wanted to focus on him, mainly for personal reasons. So if you're walking around the Mullet Arena concourse, it's the hallway leading up to the ASU locker rooms on the public side, so I am allowed to talk about it. He's actually a donor. He helped donate to either the Mullet Arena or the ASU hockey franchise, or both. And no, he is not related to Austin Lemieux, former ASU Sun Devil. That's Mario's kid. This is Claude's kid, and Claude played for the Arizona Coyotes. Lemieux was born in Colorado, but I had to have some Coyote representation with some taking it back old school in Arizona hockey history, because who else cares about that but me? And anyway,
you're not the AZ sports guy for a reason, right?
Right? But like this kid makes me feel old because we're the same age, and I hate that the 90s is so long ago. But he was 31st overall pick in 2014, and looking at his career stats, he's a bottom sixer, pure bottom sixer. The most goals they were scored in a season was 8, and the most points was about 20, a little bit under 20. This is not a guy you're going to bring in and is going to score a bunch of goals for you, going to have 30 assists, 50 points. He's a guy that fits the mold that Bill Armstrong likes. He's physical. He's got size. He's got grit. He'll bite your ear. Like, you get everything you need with Brendan Lemieux. And the reason I want him is because I want another Lemieux in the Coyotes organization. And also, in case this is the last year of Mullet, why not have a kid that's name is literally in the building, playing in the building for a team that is occupying a spot within the building, i.e. the Coyotes. So that's my reasoning for it. There's some logic, some personal biases. They both meet in the middle. We can have another Lemieux.
It's like the perfect mix. It's, you got the you got the Bill Armstrong style, and you got the Coyotes Mullet Arena connection. Like it just works so perfectly. I would love to see it. And like you said, if this is the Coyotes last year at the Mullet and Arizona, that's, well, why not just make it worth it? Why not make it worth it? I mean, obviously, we don't think it is, by the way. We want to make sure I want to make that clear.
Yeah, it's not the last season. I'm just acknowledging the what if, all right? Because you have to acknowledge it. But, like, also, a lot of Coyotes fans I know don't like Lemieux, former King, agitator, gets under your skin. I genuinely feel like he's the kind of guy that you hate when he's on a different team, you love when he's on your team, and I only care about the connection and the last name with this kid. And he just so happens to fit the Bill Armstrong mold. It's a happy little side effect.
Yeah, I mean, at least, I think a lot of Coyotes fans probably won't, don't hate Lemieux as much as they hate another, LA King player who's also kind of was a very physical player from the early 2010s.
Oh, the one that has a statue that, I can't make that joke on there. We'll get another note. Can't make it. Can't do it. You know what? We're going to wrap it up for the day. All right. Those are the 3 free agents I wanted to look at. Robin was nice enough to be like, all right, kid, pick your 3 free agents. And I picked a goalie I like, a defenseman that has a really good potential for being a reclamation project, and a son of a former player going back to the Don Maloney days. And no, Maloney wasn't the GM when Claude was here, but in terms of like getting players' kids, like there you go. There's all the connections in the boys club and if we're gonna die this year, let me have fun. There you go. That's all I got.
100%. Well, that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and the SiriusXM SXM app. Search up Locked On Coyotes. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robin_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us. Ask a question you might have. We might interact right back or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.